What if I told you that when you fall asleep at night, you're not just resting, you're actually leaving? Not just your body, but your awareness, your identity, your very sense of you. It begins to shift. Your body stays in bed, still and quiet. But something inside of you slips into another realm. Some people call it dreaming, others call it escape. But the truth is far more mysterious. You don't just sleep, you travel. Every night, like clockwork, your consciousness enters a dimension beyond the physical, beyond logic, beyond the rules of time. And yet, most of us don't remember it. Why? Where do we go? And why does no one talk about the silent journey we take every single night? Sleep is one of the most familiar experiences in our lives, and also the least understood. For centuries, it's baffled scientists, mystics, and philosophers alike. What's truly happening when the lights go out and your eyes close? Is it just the body shutting down to recharge? Or is something far deeper taking place? Something that can't be measured by machines or brain scans? Throughout history, ancient traditions spoke of the soul temporarily detaching during sleep, entering higher planes of existence, traveling the dream world, or even glimpsing into the future. What modern science often dismisses as just dreams may actually be fragmented memories of experiences too vast and too non-linear for the waking mind to comprehend. And here's where it gets even stranger. Most people report that dreams feel real, sometimes more real than life itself. Could it be that those dreamscapes are not creations of the brain, but destinations? While your conscious mind sleeps, another part of you awakens, the subconscious. Unlike your logical daytime mind, your subconscious never rests. It's always active, always observing, always absorbing. Think of it as a silent force beneath the surface, recording your every thought, emotion, desire, fear, and belief. It speaks a language not made of words, but of symbols, impressions, patterns, and while you're awake, it's in the background. But when you fall asleep, it becomes the main character. Every dream you have, every strange scenario you experience at night, is part of a conversation between you and your subconscious. It's trying to tell you something. Sometimes it whispers, other times it screams. But it always reveals the parts of you that the waking mind tries to ignore or suppress. What's more fascinating is how this hidden layer of your mind doesn't just store information, it creates. The subconscious doesn't obey logic. It plays with time, bends space, and blends memories with imagination to form entire worlds while you sleep. You might find yourself in a city you've never seen before, speaking a language you don't know, or feeling emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. These aren't random. They are the language of your deeper self. When we dream, we are given access to a deeper intelligence, a version of ourselves that understands more than we do consciously. Have you ever woken up from a dream with a sudden realization, or with a feeling that lingered for days? That wasn't an accident. That was your subconscious leaving a breadcrumb. And this language of dreams, it's more complex than we've been led to believe. Every image, every scene, every person you encounter during sleep could be a symbol, a mirror of your inner state, a warning, a memory, or even a message. Take the common dream of being chased. It's rarely about the chase. It's about what you're avoiding in your waking life. A house, that could represent your inner self. Different rooms might reflect different aspects of your personality, some hidden, some known. Falling, it could signal a lack of control, teeth falling out, a fear of change or powerlessness. These aren't coincidences, they're archetypes. The subconscious mind communicates in metaphor because metaphor is universal. It cuts through culture, language, and even time. And the more you become aware of these patterns, the more control you begin to have. You start to notice recurring themes, familiar places, or faces that always seem to show up. The dream world, once random and chaotic, begins to make sense, and once it makes sense, it becomes a map of who you are beneath the surface, a map of where your consciousness goes when it leaves the physical world behind each night. And maybe, just maybe, it's a map of where you're truly meant to go, not just in sleep, but in life. There's a moment every night that most people never notice. A thin, delicate line between waking and sleeping, so brief, so subtle, that you can slip through it without ever realizing it was there. It's the moment your body begins to drift, your thoughts start to unravel, and reality itself starts to bend at the edges. This is known as the hypnagogic state, a liminal space where your conscious mind loosens its grip and your subconscious begins to rise like mist from the depths. In this strange in-between, time stretches, visuals flash, and voices whisper things that seem both familiar and unknown. You're not fully awake, but you're not fully asleep either. It's a gateway, a threshold. And if you learn how to stay aware as you cross it, you can unlock something astonishing. Direct access to your subconscious mind and the ability to guide where your consciousness travels while you sleep. In this state, your brain's frequency begins to slow. Alpha waves give way to theta, and with that shift comes something magical: suggestion. The mind becomes open, software, malleable. It stops filtering ideas through logic and skepticism, and instead absorbs them like water into dry soil. This is the perfect moment to plant a seed, an idea, a question, a request, and watch it bloom during your sleep. Throughout history, great minds have used this state as a source of insight. Thomas Edison, for example, would hold metal balls in his hands as he dozed off. When his muscles relaxed and the balls dropped, the sound would wake him, and often he'd come back with new ideas, fresh solutions. Nikola Tesla was known for doing the same, asking questions before sleep and waking with answers he couldn't explain. But this ability isn't limited to inventors or geniuses. Anyone can tap into it. Anyone can harness the hypnagogic state to reprogram their inner world, if they know how. It starts with intention. Most people fall asleep with the weight of the day still sitting on their chest. Their minds are filled with worry, anxiety, scattered thoughts. But what if you flipped that script? What if you used those last few moments before drifting off to give your subconscious a clear instruction? You could say something as simple as, "Tonight, I want clarity about my next step," or "Help me solve this problem," or "I want to remember where my consciousness travels." The words you choose don't have to be perfect. What matters is the emotion behind them, the clarity, the belief. Because your subconscious doesn't respond to empty words. It responds to energy. When you speak with conviction, it listens, and once it listens, it begins to guide, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through feelings, sometimes through subtle, almost invisible shifts in your waking life that suddenly start to make sense. This isn't just about manifesting vague dreams or playing around with mystical ideas. This is about understanding the architecture of your mind. The subconscious is like a supercomputer. It records everything. It remembers every experience, every conversation, every emotion, even the ones you consciously forget. It's been quietly building your habits, shaping your identity, and influencing your choices your entire life. But during sleep, when the conscious mind steps aside, you get direct access to it. You can rewire limiting beliefs. You can heal emotional wounds. You can receive guidance that seems to come from somewhere beyond. And the best part? You don't need complicated rituals or years of training. All you need is intention, repetition, and trust. And once you begin working with your subconscious like this, something even more extraordinary becomes possible: lucid dreaming. This is the point where you become aware inside the dream. You're no longer a passive observer. You realize, mid-dream, that what's happening isn't real, at least not in the physical sense. And in that moment of realization, you wake up inside your own mind. You can ask questions. You can change the scenery. You can fly, visit people, replay memories, or explore new realms entirely. It's like stepping into a virtual world created by your own subconscious, except you're no longer bound by logic or physical limitations. Lucid dreaming isn't fantasy. It's a trainable skill. And once mastered, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for self-exploration, healing, and even spiritual awakening. The key is awareness. You train your waking mind to constantly ask, "Am I dreaming?" during the day, so that eventually you ask the same question while you sleep. And when the answer is yes, everything changes. You may start to notice recurring dream signs, symbols, places, or people that seem to show up again and again. These are your personal keys, and once you recognize them, you can use them to become lucid more often. But here's where it gets even deeper. Some who regularly experience lucid dreams report that they don't feel like dreams at all. The colors are sharper, the sensations more vivid, the emotions more intense, and the knowledge gained, often completely unknown to them in waking life. Where is this information coming from? Some believe these dreams are portals, windows into other layers of reality, or even parallel versions of self. Others describe them as meetings with higher intelligence, spiritual guides, or aspects of their own soul. Whether you see it as symbolic or literal, one thing is certain. Lucid dreaming is not just a game. It's a gateway, a way to step out of the simulation of everyday life and into something far more mysterious. And this is just the beginning. Because once you learn to plant ideas before sleep, once you begin to work with your subconscious intentionally, and once you become lucid in the dream world, you're no longer just sleeping. You're exploring. You're evolving. And most importantly, you're remembering that your consciousness is not trapped in your body. It's infinite, expansive, and capable of far more than you've ever been taught to believe. Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so real, that when you woke up, it actually hurt to realize it wasn't this world? A place so detailed it felt like you'd been there before, even though you hadn't. At least, not in waking life. You could see the walls, feel the textures, hear the sounds echoing through spaces that seemed oddly familiar. Maybe you spoke with people who felt important, people you've never met but somehow knew. And maybe you've wondered, how is this possible? Is it just the brain playing tricks, or could it be something more? Here's the idea. What if dreams are not merely creations of the mind, but access points? What if your consciousness, untethered from the physical body, is exploring parallel realities, alternative dimensions, or deep layers of the inner universe that go beyond anything science can currently explain? Every night, as your brain enters the REM state, you're in a condition of heightened mental activity. Not random chaos, but a precise and unique frequency that closely resembles the brainwaves seen during deep meditation, hypnosis, and even near-death experiences. In this altered state, the boundaries of reality become fluid. Time bends, logic relaxes. The rules of this dimension dissolve. And this is when something remarkable can happen. Your consciousness begins to shift into another state, one that's not limited by the physical world. This might explain why, in dreams, we can experience things that are impossible in waking life. Telepathy, levitation, visiting people we've never met, or learning things we shouldn't know. Could it be that we're not just dreaming about these experiences, but actually having them in another layer of reality? Many cultures throughout history believed that dreams were literal journeys. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time, a sacred, eternal dimension that holds the blueprint of reality. In ancient Egypt, dreams were considered spiritual travel, and in Tibet, Dream yoga is practiced to maintain awareness as the dreamer crosses into other dimensions of being. Even today, there are people who report dreams so real and detailed that they defy explanation. They find themselves in cities with advanced technology, civilizations filled with beings who seem more evolved than us. Some encounter guides or beings made of light. Others describe entire landscapes, forests, temples, oceans, skies, that feel more real than anything they've seen with open eyes. And when these dreams are recalled, they don't feel like imagination. They feel like memories. This leads to an even deeper question. What determines where your consciousness goes during sleep? Is it random? The answer seems to be no. Just like tuning into a radio station, your emotional state, mental clarity, and intentions before sleep act as frequencies that determine what realm or dimension you dial into when your physical body goes offline. People who go to bed angry, fearful, or anxious often report chaotic or disturbing dreams. Others who go to bed after meditating, praying, or setting clear intentions tend to experience peaceful, expansive, even transcendent dream journeys. The subconscious acts like a compass, always guiding you based on your internal energy. So if you carry emotional heaviness into sleep, that's often reflected in the environment you land in. But if your energy is elevated, curious, or calm, your consciousness has the potential to access higher planes, where messages, healing, and insight await. Energy doesn't lie, and neither does vibration. Everything in the universe operates on frequency, including your thoughts and emotions, and your frequency before sleep is like a boarding pass. It determines the flight path of your consciousness. This is why spiritual traditions across cultures have always emphasized preparing the mind and spirit before bed, whether through chanting, gratitude, intention setting, or simply taking time to breathe and center yourself. These acts raise your vibration and shift the trajectory of your subconscious journey. Sleep then becomes more than just rest. It becomes spiritual travel, and the quality of your emotional state becomes the map. If you begin to pay attention to this, truly pay attention, you'll start to see patterns. You might notice that on nights when you felt peaceful and grateful, your dreams were rich, clear, even beautiful. And on nights filled with worry or chaos, the dreams turn dark, confusing, or meaningless. These aren't coincidences, they're signals. Your subconscious isn't just showing you random fragments of memory. It's reflecting your inner frequency back at you, like a mirror that speaks in symbols instead of words. And when you really understand that, you gain something powerful, the ability to choose, to consciously set the tone for your sleep, to shape the path your consciousness takes while your body rests. And it gets even more fascinating. Because when people start combining emotional alignment with intention and awareness, their dreams begin to change dramatically. Some start to have recurring themes that guide them toward healing old wounds. Others receive symbolic visions that help them make real-life decisions. And some report entering dream environments that are so consistent, so structured and stable, they feel like actual places. Not random, but designed, as if they exist independent of the dreamer's mind. Could these be alternate dimensions, accessible only when the physical body sleeps and the ego takes a back seat? Think of it this way. When you're awake, you experience the world through the 5 senses. But when you sleep, you're operating on an entirely different interface. You perceive through emotion, intuition, and imagery. You're no longer bound to a single location. Your consciousness is free. And the quality of your emotional energy before sleep doesn't just shape what kind of dream you have. It determines where you go and what you attract in those non-physical realms. In this view, dreaming is not a byproduct of brain chemistry. It's a method of travel, an exploration, a mirror. And when treated with the right awareness, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for personal transformation. So the next time you're about to fall asleep, don't just close your eyes and hope for rest. Pause, reflect, Ask yourself, what am I carrying into this journey? What frequency am I radiating? What intention am I setting? Because your consciousness is going somewhere. It always does. The only question is, where will it take you tonight? There's a part of sleep that most people fear, but few truly understand. Nightmares. Those terrifying, heart-racing dream scenarios that jolt us awake and leave a shadow over the next day. Most try to forget them. Some dismiss them as stress. But what if they weren't just mental static? What if nightmares were not something to run from, but something to listen to? Think about it. If dreams are the voice of your subconscious, then nightmares are its alarm bells. They don't happen by accident. They're deliberate, intense, and emotional for a reason. The subconscious doesn't communicate with polite sentences. It speaks in images, symbols, sensations. And when there's something deep inside you that needs your attention, it doesn't whisper, it roars. That roaring can take the form of falling from great heights, being chased by shadowy figures, drowning, screaming with no voice, or being trapped in impossible situations. These aren't just random fears. They're metaphors, messages, warnings, and sometimes keys. Recurring nightmares, in particular, are like locked doors your subconscious keeps pushing you toward. Each night they repeat, your deeper self is asking, will you look at this now? Will you finally face this? And when you do, something changes. The nightmare often stops. The fear dissolves. Because here's the truth no one tells you. What you avoid in the dream becomes the trap. What you confront becomes the teacher. That faceless entity chasing you? Maybe it's not a demon. Maybe it's a part of you. Your unprocessed grief, your childhood wound, your fear of rejection. And the moment you stop running and turn to face it, the scene shifts. The fear breaks. And you discover that nightmares aren't punishments. They're portals. They exist to show you what's unhealed, what's unfinished, what's been waiting inside of you for far too long. Some spiritual traditions even teach that nightmares are the soul's way of training for real transformation. In certain dream schools and shamanic lineages, facing your deepest fears during sleep is considered a rite of passage, a way to dissolve the ego and unlock deeper levels of consciousness. It's like psychological shadow work in motion. And here's the powerful part. If you can become lucid during a nightmare, the entire experience transforms. You go from helpless victim to conscious observer. You can ask the monster why it's chasing you. You can ask the storm what it represents. You can fly, fight, heal, or simply become aware. And in that moment, fear no longer controls the dream. You do. That shift is what turns nightmares from torment into treasure. But even outside of nightmares, this idea applies. Every dream, especially the intense ones, is a mirror. And the more emotionally charged it is, the more it's tied to something meaningful. Nightmares just crank the volume up. They're emotional amplifiers, reflecting the hidden corners of your psyche that daytime distractions keep buried. And if you can develop the courage to explore them, you'll often find insight, clarity, and even healing waiting on the other side. Which brings us to a deeper point. Sleep isn't just a break, it's a journey, a nightly adventure through the layers of your own consciousness. And the way you approach it changes everything. Because the truth is, once you understand the hidden mechanics of sleep, the role of the subconscious, the influence of intention, the power of emotion, then you realize that sleep itself is a spiritual tool. Every night, you have an opportunity not just to rest, but to grow, to learn, to evolve. Sleep becomes sacred, a classroom, a temple, a mirror, and it all depends on how you prepare. If you go to bed with frustration, chaos, unresolved emotion, that becomes your fuel. That energy shapes your journey. But if you enter sleep intentionally, with calm, clarity, curiosity, your consciousness begins to reach further. to explore more refined dimensions, to pull wisdom from places most people never even touch. And yes, you can train for this. You can develop a nightly ritual that activates your subconscious in powerful ways. Dream journaling is one of the most effective practices. Writing down even fragments of your dreams every morning trains your brain to remember more. It strengthens the bridge between the conscious and unconscious. You'll start to see patterns, symbols, messages that repeat. And once you notice them, you begin to understand them. Meditation or visualization before sleep also creates massive shifts. When you enter sleep from a high vibration state, your dream world reflects that energy. You might find yourself in radiant environments, talking to guides, receiving insight, or simply feeling deeply at peace. And when you combine that with lucid dreaming techniques, reality checks, setting intentions, repeating affirmations like, "Tonight I will be aware in my dream," you begin to gain control. Not in a forced way, but in an awakened way. You become a traveler, not a passenger. Over time, sleep becomes less of a void and more of a voyage. The nights stop blurring together. The mornings become more meaningful. You start waking up with answers to questions you didn't even know you were asking. Sometimes with inspiration, sometimes with healing, sometimes just with a sense of alignment that ripples through your day. The boundary between your waking life and dream life softens, and you begin to understand that they're not separate at all. They're reflections of each other, different layers of the same consciousness. You. So the question becomes, what are you using your sleep for? Are you letting it be a mindless cycle of shutdown and restart? Or are you using it as a bridge to deeper knowing? Because the potential is always there. The power is always within you. You just have to remember how to ask, how to listen, and how to prepare. And if you do, if you treat every night like a sacred journey, then sleep becomes the greatest self-discovery tool you've ever had. A doorway to healing, a canvas for transformation, a reminder that even in your quietest, stillest hours, your consciousness is never truly resting. It's exploring, expanding, becoming. And the more aware you are of that truth, the more powerful you become, not just in dreams, but in life.